Ready.
Okay, thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. Co-op Banker George Realty. Welcome to the Friday training. Today we're going to talk about, or Michelle is going to talk about the TDS, which is the Transfer Disclosure Statement, and also the AVID and SPQ form. Now, as you know that the TDS is a very important document. It's statutorily required for all residential sales, 4 units or less. And so it's mandatory that we give the TDS to all buyers. And if you don't, then the buyer has the right of rescission. So it is very important. And there are two other documents that are associated with this disclosure, which is the AVID and the SPQ, also important documents. So Michelle is going to talk about those today, and so hopefully that will give you a more in-depth understanding of the TDS and the SPQ and the AVID. So with that, Michelle, just take it away.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending the training. This one is extremely important to get these disclosures explained. So if there's something that Peter needs to jump in with what I've said, I've asked him to stop and jump in with me. So I want to make sure that we're all being trained properly and that I'm explaining it right. So if he needs to jump in, he'll jump in on these and we'll keep training, okay? So I'm going to begin on the SPQ. Just a second. We're muting. Okay, so we're all ready. Okay, so let's start at the top. You're going to start with the city. This is pretty elementary, but we'll just do it as showing you. Los Angeles County, described as 123 Main Street. Okay. So as an agent, you can have this portion already filled out. This date will not be filled out yet until your seller signs the document. When they sign and complete the document, they'll be signing at the end and dating it. That same date should go here. So if they already signed the back of the document on April 15th, that's the date on their signature, please put the date up here because that indicates that they completed the form. So as Peter mentioned, these are required by statutory law. There are some exemptions, but please, before you exempt having the TDS disclosure as part of your package, please talk to your broker. For instance, we're in a deal where there's, the owner is deceased and it's in the property resides in a trust. There's 3 siblings. 2 are the trustees. However, one of the beneficiaries has been living on the property for the last 8 years and still continues to live there. So we didn't exclude the TDS. So please, before you make that decision yourself, talk to your broker. If you think you're in a situation where you can exclude the TDS, don't do it on your own. Get a second opinion, please. Okay? Because we don't want to misstep on that. So coming down here, let's make sure here that we are checking a box. Now, most of the time on our contracts, we're going to be checking no substituted disclosures for this transfer. You may have other disclosures. Fine, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about no substituted disclosures for this transfer, or if you had an inspection report that you already did or wanted to attach, you could check this box. But I would say 90% of the time we're going to be checking the no substituted disclosures. Please make sure you do that so we have a complete TDS form. Okay. So here this is not a contract between the buyer and seller. This information is intended for the buyer, and this can sway their decision-making process. So we want to make sure that the seller, not us, is filling it out properly. One note on that, excuse me, on the SPQ and the TDS, please don't just email, to your clients. If you can't reach them in person, you can get on the phone and read every single question to them and go over it with them. and help them facilitate getting this form done. Don't just email it, because it can be quite daunting, you know, even as agents. So somebody that doesn't have our background, it would be too much for them. Okay, so let's make sure, if we can't get to our clients personally, which I like to do because you want to, you know, go over the form with them, then let's email them a copy and then make a phone appointment with them. So right here, seller is or is not occupying the property. Make sure that you click that box. So the subject property has the items checked below. So anything that you know that is on the property, make sure you're checking it. You have things, a pool, spa heaters, anything that you know is on the property, not you, but the seller, they're going to go ahead and check it. On the garage, attached or not attached. A number of remote controls. If you don't know if they're going to be able to give them any remote controls or working ones, it's probably better not to check this. You can check that it's an automatic garage door opener, but if you can't get a remote control, don't promise, you know, don't have them promise one on the TDS. Okay, now exhaust fans, if they don't answer that, kind of try to help them out. Say sometimes bathrooms or kitchens have exhaust fans. So if they said, oh yeah, 2 of my bathrooms, so you would put exhaust fans in bathroom or kitchen, whatever they tell you. If they don't, a lot of people, I mean, I don't even know 220-volt wiring in, that might be, you know, unknown, that you don't know. Okay, so if you have a fireplace, note it here. It may be in the living room or the den. Make sure that you put that in. And then they want to know if the fireplace is a gas starter type. If the seller does not know, remember, this is what they know, then check it. If they do not know, or maybe it's been wood, then don't check it. The roof type, sometimes the seller doesn't know, but if they know it's shingle or tile, they can put that in. If they know the approximate age of the roof, that's nice that they put approximate here. Go ahead and fill that in. Other, you know, probably not used too often, but if they have something to add here, they can go ahead and add that too. Now, here it's asking you, to the best of the seller's knowledge, are any of the above not in operating condition? Yes or no? If it's yes, describe. Like we just had one where there's a built-in microwave that's not working. So we put yes, microwave is not operational. So they can, there's no harm in putting yes if it's not working. Just put it's not working, you know. So they shouldn't worry about this. This is just being a little more transparent, and it's nothing to worry about. Just answer to the best of their ability. They don't have to go dig for information. It's, are they aware? So they're not digging around for information. If they don't know, then they don't check it. Okay. So here, make sure they're looking down here first before just clicking a yes or no. Are you, the seller, aware of any significant defects, malfunction in any of the following? So look down at these. If they click a box, floor, maybe a floor's lifting or something, they need to describe what the issue is and explain it. If you need more sheets attached, you can go ahead and attach a sheet to explain. So either click yes or no, make sure that they describe what the issue is there. Okay, so coming down here, this is again, are you, the seller, aware of any of the following? They don't have to dig around. Do they have knowledge of it? That's what the form is asking. So on these questions here, they're going to click yes or no. And substance, materials, or products which may be an environmental hazard, yes or no. So they go down all of these questions. Sometimes this room additions, structural modifications, or other alterations or repairs made without necessary permits. If they don't know, they don't know. They can check no, but if they do know, they could put yes. Okay, so you can help them as far as telling them just to answer to the best of their ability. That's what I always say. And if you don't know, it's a no. Okay. So sometimes the form seems so hard, but it's not. It's just giving the buyer information. So neighborhood noise problems or other nuisances, you know, what could that kind of thing be? So if you click yes, it could be airport noise. Maybe the property's within a couple of miles of an airport. So things of that nature, you would want to click, they would want to say yes and disclose that it's close to an airport. If they don't, you could always pick that up on your AVID, which we'll address in a moment. But noise problems, it could be airport, they could be sitting on an extremely busy boulevard. So, you know, this question is important, but if they don't know of anything, then that's fine, no. CCNR, yes or no? Okay, so I won't read each question, but any lawsuits by or against the seller threatening or affecting the property? So yes or no? Is there any defects, pool, tennis courts, walkways, yes or no? Okay, so if you've answered yes to any of these questions up here, make sure that you're doing an explanation of it, and please put, if you want to address it, C11. C11 was a yes. So you're going to type, or excuse me, they're going to write in here C11, home is in close proximity to an airport. Okay, so you don't need to be lengthy in the explanations. The seller doesn't, just point out that it's near an airport, or if it's sitting on the backside of a golf course or anything like that, that they feel it's necessary to disclose. So, and down here on D1, it's talking about that the property at the close of escrow will be in compliance with the health and safety code by having operational smoke detectors. That is a requirement. It's also a requirement that the water heater tank is braced, anchored, or strapped. So that even reminds them again right here to make sure those things are done. Please make sure that they are complete before an appraiser hits the property, because we do not want to cause an extra charge that the seller, if the appraiser had to come back, that may fall onto the seller if they agreed to pay for those items. So here it says the seller is certifying that the information herein is true and correct to the best of their knowledge. It's not that they've dug around, went to the city, but it's to the best of their knowledge right now. Sign and date. So coming down here to the agent inspection disclosure. So our company does require an AVID. So the best way to handle this section from our standpoint is to say, see attached AVID, and then produce the AVID. Now, what if you filled out this transfer disclosure statement ahead of time with the listing and you had not had an opportunity to perform on your AVID? So what you can do is, once you get access to the property, go do your AVID. But when you date this with your signature, make sure the date is matching your AVID, and then marry the AVID to the TDS when you are sending them over to the buyer's agent. So if you cannot get this done at the same time, and a lot of times that's the case, please make sure that you date this, the date of your AVID, when you performed it, okay? And then you can hand check the box for the disclosure. So down here, the buyer's agent is going to do the same thing. Now, some companies may instruct their agents differently. It might not say see attached. It might say something different. That's up to them. But for Coldwell Banker George Realty, we prefer that you use the AVID form, and please attach it. Make sure your date matches here, your AVID inspection date that you signed, okay? So if buyer and seller may wish to obtain any professional advice or inspections of the property, so they're reminding them that they can do some inspections of the property. And that's a good reminder for all of us. And I like this too. A real estate broker is qualified to advise on real estate. If you desire legal advice, consult your attorney. And at the top of the training, Peter did mention that if this is not complete, or even if the buyer got this really late and didn't like it, they can rescind the contract, I believe it's within 3 days. So the best bet on all of this is to get your disclosures done ASAP. We have 7 days fallout in the contract. That is when we should have those over to the buyer's agent as soon as possible, because you want to make sure that they have this form when they're doing their buyer inspection. I like them to have the TDS in case we noted, as we just did, that a fireplace wasn't operational. They already had the TDS in hand. They took the TDS with them. Their inspector looked over the items that were noted in this TDS that weren't operational. So it's nice if you can get this over to the buyer's agent. It shows a lot of professional intent, and please get it over to them so they have it for their inspection and they don't have any surprises when you submit it. We don't want to be submitting this late. So I'm going to stop at this point and let Peter take over on this form if he has anything to add. Anything to add, Peter?
Yeah, Michelle, when you mentioned about the rescission, right? It's 5 days.
5 days, okay.
After you receive the TDS, you have 5 days to rescind the contract. So
Okay.
it's very important that you give the TDS to the buyers an appropriate time. Okay, you don't want to jeopardize your closing of escrow. And also for the exemption of a TDS, there's a certain situations that the TDS exempt. What the 10 situation. The first one is a transfer requiring public report, such as a mixed-use development or a big development where you have the pink report and the white report that's already regulated by the Department of Real Estate. The second one is the transfer pursuant to the court orders. For example, the bankruptcy, sale, trustee sale, the writ of execution, eminent domain, and transfer resulting from the decree for specific performance. The third one will be a transfer by foreclosure. So if you have a foreclosure on property, when you sell the property, you don't need the TDS. The fourth one is a transfer by fiduciary in the course of the administration of decedent's estates, such as guardianship, conservatorship, or trust. Now, this trust is different from the living trust. Okay, so the living trust is not exempt from the requirement of TDS. But if you have a trust or irrevocable trust or some kind of charity trust, then the TDS is exempted. And the fifth one is transfer from co-owners to from one of the co-owner to the other co-owner. The sixth exemption is the transfer made to a spouse or child or grandchild or parents within the the lineage of the descendants. The seventh one was transfer between the spouses in connection of divorce. The eighth one is transfer by the state controller pursuant to the unclaimed property law. And the ninth is transfer as a result of a failure to pay property taxes. And the last one is the transfer of exchange by the government entity. So those are the 10 exemptions that doesn't require the TDS. But other than you have to have a TDS, and also for commercial real estate, you don't have a TDS. It's only good for the properties that are 4 units or less in a residential sale. Okay, that's all I have to add for Michelle in terms of the TDS form.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go, we'll do the AVID last. Now, remember, if you need to do a TDS, then you also need to do the SPQ. Okay, so you see here on the SPQ, this, if you are exempt from a TDS, using some of those exemptions that Peter mentioned, then you still need to fill out a form, but it's called the exempt seller disclosure. But if you're required to do a TDS, you need to come in with the SPQ as well, seller property questionnaire. So here you see it already populated with our address. There's one more slot here. You're gonna, add your APN. So make sure that you do that so that we have a fully completed form. Now, again, this is for the seller to fill out, not us agents. And the purpose of it, and they tell you right here, is so that you tell the buyer about known material or significant items affecting the value or desirability of the property. So they're even saying they don't, to eliminate misunderstandings about the condition of the property. And their answer is based on actual knowledge and recollection at the time they fill this out, okay? So again, they're not digging through the city, they're not doing all that. It's what their actual knowledge is or recollection at the time. And it even tells the buyer that the purpose is to give them known material or significant items affecting the value of the property. So this is an extremely important form, just like the other one, the TDS. And you should be sitting with your seller. And a lot of times I will read the questions to them, let them think about it and give the answer. We want to facilitate helping them. We do not want to complete it or lead them in any manner on these forms. These are for them to fill out of what their recollection is of the property and actual knowledge. So again, it's seller awareness. Are you the seller aware of? So that's what they're asking here. So we're going to go down. I will not read every single question, but you see here, if they have any prior inspection reports or disclosures, warranties, maintenance, it's probably good if they check yes, if they have those in their possession and put, inspection report dated or whatever the document is that they have. If they don't, it's a no. Very important here. Within the last 3 years, the death of an occupant on the of the property upon the property, yes or no. There's certain people that are really watching for this. So make sure, again, as we said with the TDS, do this along with your TDS. Get it out to them. Give them a chance during inspection to look at these items, not the death, but the other questions. Okay, so there's a lot of questions here, like whether the property is affected by a nuisance created by industrial zone use, yes or no. And here they're telling you, are you located near commercial or airport uses? If they're hearing airplanes even only once a week or trains, they should probably disclose that. There's some train tracks where they only do run once a week. They're more cargo trains, but you should let them know. The seller should let them know if they know that to be a fact. And here they're asking if the property is a condo or located in a PUD, yes or no. Anything that you answer yes to, please provide an explanation. And again, agents, direct them to say 6A. If they have an explanation for 6A, note the question so it's not confusing and the buyer understands what question goes with what answer. Okay, so make sure that they're addressing that. Insurance claims affecting the property within the past 5 years, yes or no. If they had an insurance claim affecting the property and it might have been something minor, I'm sure the insurance agent could print something off on that if they wanted to attach that. Okay, so it might have been fixing something or whatever. But if they have had, they can ask their insurance agent to print off a copy of just that claim, and you could attach it if you like. The seller can. That is up to the seller. Matters affecting title of property. Now here's one: material facts or defects affecting the property not otherwise disclosed to the buyer. Yes or no. What could that be? As I stated earlier, they could be on the backside of a golf course. Maybe people start playing golf at 7 in the morning and there could be golf balls flying, so things like that. They could just, if that's the case, yes, property and backyard faces the golf course, something like very simple. You don't have to say a lot, but if they check yes, and it's something like that, just very simple wording the seller can use. Repairs and alterations to the property. Remodeling or material repairs on the property. A lot of the clients have done that, so maybe it's a yes. and then they can just explain what they did, or if they happen to have receipts or anything like that, they can certainly attach them. If they don't, and they did some remodeling like painting and flooring on their own, they could put 7A, painted interior, and it'll ask you more about painting too, right here. Okay, ongoing or reoccurring maintenance on the property. So what they're asking is there any pest control service? I've sometimes put, that there's gardener service. Maybe that's overkill, but I do that sometimes. So Peter can correct me at the end if that's not right, but I will put what the owner is doing to maintain that property on a monthly basis. Any part of the property being painted within the past 12 months. Usually if they're selling a property, they've probably either done some touch-up paint or whatever. So yes or no, do the explanation, make sure you're noting it's 7D down here, because we don't want to have any confusion on what that answer goes to. Whether or not the property was built before 78. If it's yes, click yes, and you could put built in 1947. Were any of the renovations, sanding, cutting, lead-based paint surfaces started or completed? They may not know that, so it could either be yes or a no. No, we don't know. Were such renovations done in compliance with EPA? Don't know. No. If that's the case, they can, certainly click no on that if they do not know or have actual knowledge. So here they're asking about the structural systems and appliances, and pretty important to read all these to your client: heating, air conditioning, electrical, plumbing. If there's any yes answer on this, please make sure that they're noting it. If you need an additional page, you can certainly attach that. Now, here's one that we're running into more and more, 8B, leasing of any of the following on the servicing the property: solar system, water softener, things like that, especially this solar system. You want to get the contract when you take the listing from your seller. You want to see what the assumption rights are, or if they have them for a new client. I just read a solar system contract where their FICO needs to be a 650. So you need to make sure if you have a property with a solar system on it, please get that contract from your client. Don't wait till you're headlong into escrow. We prefer that you have that upfront, so you're reading it and supplying a copy to escrow. And if you check yes, I would put, solar system on the property, and I would even attach the contract to this disclosure if I had it. Okay, so make sure that you're putting that out quite quickly, because if they can't qualify for that solar system, or they're only qualified for 750 and now having to qualify for a solar system pushes them out of the range of buying that property, they need to know right away. So make sure you're providing that solar system. Sometimes we've even put it in counter offers, but that's up to you as an agent. Are there septic systems serving the property? Yes or no? Sometimes you do run into that. If you do, CAR also has a septic system form that you would use as well. Disaster relief? Yes or no? I'm gonna go quickly and hit things that I think could be, that we need to address. So water related and mold issues, yes or no on these. Pets, animals, and pests. A lot of us do have pets. So past or present pets on the property, yes, one dog or whatever the case may be. So they just note one dog. I used to think that they should put one large dog, but large to me and large to you are two different things. So now it's just one dog, one cat, or whatever the case may be with whatever pet they had, one bird. So any past or present problems with livestock, yes or no? And odors, urine, feces, damage to the property due to the above pets, yes or no? Eradication of pests or odors or repair of damage to any. If you click yes here, they say, if so, by whom? So then you type in there. But when you're saying that you had a pet on the property, just answer the question. You don't need to qualify it by large, small, medium, just whatever the pet was, okay? Boundaries and access. This is any easements, encroachments, yes or no on all of those. And there's something that I want to point out down here. Diseases affecting trees, plants, yes or no. Operational sprinklers on the property. Go ahead and check what applies. And here it says, if yes, are any areas with trees, plants, or vegetation not covered by the sprinkler system? That could be a yes, and you could say the seller may want to disclose that not all flower beds are hit by the sprinkler system, whatever the case may be. Just very simple. You don't have to elaborate. And then answer the rest of these about the pool. Okay. So this section 14A, B, and C is condominiums, common interest, and other subdivisions, if applicable. Even though it says if applicable, and I'll have Peter jump in at the end, if I'm on a single family, I just have them answer no, so there's no blanks on the form. I suppose there's a different way to do it. You could put non-applicable in the explanation that it's an SFR, but I'll let Peter give some leadership on that. Peter, what do you think about that? Should we be answering it if it's an SFR?
Well, the general explanation, you only need the explanation if that is not obvious. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you think that is already, you already explained it to the best you can.
Okay.
The material fact, and this is not, if it is not an material fact, then you don't have to do extra explanation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay. So title, ownership, liens, and legal claims. This is a pretty easy for people to answer. But make sure that, we're helping them to answer these appropriately. I like to have the title report. So if you take a listing, you can get with your title officer and get a title report ordered right away so that you can take a look at it, provide a copy to the seller. And again, if they have any questions about any liens on that title report, you can three-way them right into the title officer, so they're getting the answers right from a title officer, so that we're not leading them down, addressing things improperly. So I like to three-way them into the title officer, and they're very happy to do that for you. Leases, options, or claims affecting or relating to title or use of the property, and lawsuits, any private transfers triggered by the sale. So these should be pretty easy for somebody to answer. But again, make sure you're ordering that title report right up front so that you can provide that copy to the seller. You can look over with them on any liens on that title report. And if they have questions, you can three-way right into the title officer, which will be a great help for everybody and knowing things ahead of time. Okay, so neighbors and neighborhood. So here we go, noise, nuisance, problems, traffic, parking congestion. I've been in some areas where, beach areas, you cannot park. So you can put 16A, parking congestion on street, or, if there's trains, light rail, make sure that they're disclosing this. If they hear it, see it, anything like that. If there's airplanes coming over the top of them, make sure that's disclosed, because anyway, the buyer's going to drive by there and see that as well, or hear it. So it doesn't hurt. But again, this is the seller's disclosure, not ours. Okay, so let them fill that out. But again, please be with them while they're doing it. Don't just email this. Any past or present disputes with a neighbor? We hope not. So yes or no on that. Governmental. So here, these are pretty self-explanatory and answering, but I want to drop down to 17G because we have a lot of this in our area. Any protected habitat for plants, trees, animals. We do have a lot of oak trees in our area, and those are protected. I'm not a tree person. I don't even know when I'm looking at an oak tree, okay? So make sure you're getting this form. If the answer is yes on that and it happens to be an oak tree for 17G, please note oak tree, you know, or oak trees, whichever it is, one or plural. But make sure that you're paying attention to that question, because if somebody's buying that property and they were looking at that giant tree in front that they were going to knock down to extend or in the backyard, they need to know that's an oak tree. Those are protected trees in this area. And I don't even know when I'm looking at one. So make sure you're paying attention to that. The other thing is, if they have a designation of the property falling in a historic district, there's a lot of restrictions with that. You know, you can't even put certain types of windows in. So make sure that you know these two when they fill it out, you're looking so that you can provide this form to the buyer so they know right away.
Michelle,
Yes.
another important thing is that if their property is within the protected habitat, then you really have to disclose it to the buyer, because you know the environmental agency is very particular on these kind of things.
Yeah.
When you have a protected habitat, so for example, if the property is a habitat for yellow butterfly, you have to
yes.
you have to get another habitat for the yellow butterfly before you can do anything on the property, you know, for development or for other things. So it can be very important for the buyer to know.
Yeah, and I guess could that be found out, Peter? I'm just brainstorming with you. We wouldn't go to the city, but it's only what the seller knows, right? Because
yes, but
it's
if you
important
know,
for
you have to
building.
disclose.
Yeah.
If you know, you have to disclose.
I didn't know that about butterflies. I heard something a long time ago about frogs. So gosh, there's so much we need to know, folks.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's a super important question, G and H, because this could affect what they can build there. So be very conscientious of those questions. Okay. Now this is important too, and I think this is fairly new. Any occupant of the property smoking or vaping any substance on the property, past or present. I have sold houses where you walk in and you feel like you're going to be knocked out with the smell of cigarettes. So yes, occupants smoked inside of the house or whatever it is. This is important too, because some people are highly allergic. Make sure that that occupant, if they've been vaping or smoking, fine, but just disclose it. If they've been doing that, they need to let that person know, because you don't want them to buy it and their head swells up because they're allergic, you know, something like that. But just make sure that's disclosed. I believe this is a fairly new question, and it's a great question, and it allows the property owner to disclose most everything on the property. Any use for the property, remodeling, and it's asking about cannabis cultivation or growth, yes or no. And then here's one final question where they have a chance to disclose anything that they haven't answered above, any past or present known material, facts, or other significant items affecting the value or desirability of the property, not otherwise disclosed to the buyer. So this is a very important question too. So it's either yes or no. If it's yes, go ahead and put the explanation in. And then you see here, they have a 19. If you have a lot of extra comments, you can check this box. And then the attached addendum is going to have your explanations and comments on it. So this is a very important form. We prefer that you get this out so that they have it with them when they're doing their professional inspection, because like Peter was saying, if there's trees or butterflies or something, they need to look at the property if they're planning to remodel or add. So that's going to become very important to them. So this is the seller's obligation to disclose the information requested in this form. And it is not our job to disclose it. It is the seller's. Okay. So make sure that you are facilitating that they fill out this form, but please don't, be the one answering all the questions for them. That's extremely important. So we have one more form. I'm going to ask Peter if he has something to add, and then we'll move on to the AVID after he speaks.
Yeah, the SPQ is pretty self-explanatory, and you did a good job explaining it. But the important thing is that is all the information that you disclose should be material. Okay, the keyword is material. So if it's some very minor things and you don't want to be burdened the buyer, you don't have to disclose. And also is to your actual knowledge of what you actually know. So so two things, keep that in mind, and you'll be okay with the SPQ.
Okay, so
Okay.
now I'm going to go back and I'm going to open the AVID up. Since this you would attach to the, let me see, to the TDS. And here you can pre-fill this out. Okay, so, or if it's for a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, you can click this box. And this AVID, if you are performing an AVID on any of these 2, 3, or 4 units, you need to do one for each unit. This AVD form is for unit number, you know, whatever it happens to be. Some people miss that, but you do need to do an AVID for each unit. And this AVID is for 1 to 4 units, as Peter previously mentioned. Okay, but if you're selling 3 units, please do 3 AVIDs. Okay, so I'm going to get down here. So and they're telling you again to put the unit here. The real estate firm performing this inspection is Coldwell Banker George Realty. We're doing it 4:15, and it's 11 a.m. let's say. Okay, weather conditions. I'll just say cloudy. I don't even know what it looks like outside. But was there any other persons present? If not, NA. Okay. Sometimes I've listened to training videos and they say that it's best not to go and do this when they're having an inspection. Go on your own. Do this on your own. Don't be there with an inspector doing this AVID. Make your own inspection. Now, for this form, my opinion, and sometimes I want Peter to correct me on this, but I feel it's for material items as well. Like if I see a little scratch in a floor, it's not really going to take down that home value. So things like scratch in the floor, mark on the wall, on the paint, stain in the carpet, I don't really find that too concerning because I don't find it material. But if you see a stain on a wall, like a watermark, don't make an analysis of what it is, because we're not there to, analyze stains or call them that 4-letter word that we don't like to say in real estate. Just say stain on the wall. Don't say large, small, anything. Don't say nothing else other than, stain north wall, living room, noted. Something like that. I don't even want to say if it's large, small, or what I think it is, because how would I know? I don't have a testing kit with me, and that's not our function. So then here, when you put the bedrooms in, make sure that you're noting bedroom at end of the hall or master, so that people know what you're talking about. If you have nothing to note in an area, put nothing noted. This is how I do it, but I want Peter to go over this because there's so many different opinions on filling out this form, but it's material items, in my opinion. I don't want to give them carpet stains. So what am I going to disclose? Okay, so if I've noted on some homes that the home faces the freeway, even though there's that big fancy retainer wall, and the occupants are saying, oh, but it's quiet. No, even if you say, oh, it's common sense, the buyer can see the freeway, please put that home is facing freeway retaining wall. Put something like that. Also, if it's like on a golf course, make sure you're disclosing that. Things that material affect it. If it's on an extremely busy street, make sure you're noting, property is located next to a highway, something like that. But anything that material affects the property is what I'm interested in. Scratches and little dings, I'm not as interested, but I do want to note things that I think affect the value of the property. So that's something. And people, I think, feel like they need to note, like in the dining room, stain on carpet, but that doesn't affect the value really of the property. So I think it's the material items on this form. That is how I perform on this form. And I'm going to let Peter explain a little bit more about it. But for me, it's material item. The inspection, you need to, again, put the Coldwell Banker George Realty, who you are, and the date. And remember, this date needs to match the TDS date. If you perform this AVID after the TDS was already created, make sure your signing date matches the signing date on the TDS where you say see attached to AVID. And we can go deeper into training on the AVID. That's just a little bit of information on it. Peter, do you have any thoughts?
Well, the AVID is not statutorily required. It's just merely an extension of the TDS that you would be putting more information about the disclosure that pertains to material facts and which are visibly obvious to the agent who's doing the AVID. So Michelle is right that you should just note that all the material facts, material items in the premises, and but don't leave any blanks, blank anywhere blank because if you leave it blank, then people think that you never really pay attention to it. So if you didn't find anything that's material, it's just that you can say just nothing noted or within normal limit, or some kind of normalcy is noted. But never leave it, or you can say NA, which is not applicable or not available. So yeah, it's pretty simple form to fill it out, but it takes a little time to do it, and you have to do it methodically, and so that you just go through every items that is listed in the form, and you'll be safe.
Yeah, and make sure that your methods of filling out all of your AVIDs, I was watching training, that it's always the same. Don't be flipping. If you have a method of how you fill it out, make sure that you're always following your method, within the bounds of what our company is advising you. That's really important. If something ever happened, that you're always using the same methodology. I think there's some questions. Let me see.
Some 11 questions.
Yeah.
Well, questions. Let's go through them.
Yeah, I've got it. Okay. So the first one looks like it's Shane. Oh, okay. You want to know if this is for listing agreement? Yeah, when you take a listing, you need to have the seller complete the TDS and SPQ, and then you will be completing your AVID. But if you're a buyer's agent and the listing agent isn't giving you these forms, please be calling that agent and telling them you need those right away. They have 7 days per contract to deliver them to you. Please ask right away if you don't see those coming, that they need to give you these disclosures. Usually a listing agent within the first 7 days is going to send you a disclosure package, Shane. Oh, Oscar wants to know, why do they ask if the house has been painted in the last 12 months? Maybe, I'm not sure why. Peter, what do you think? Maybe it's the smell?
No particular reason other than they just say they just want to know whether this property has been properly maintained, you know, any painting during the last year. So
Oscar,
no
you're
particular
asking,
reason.
Oh, yeah, Christine said they want to see if they covered up defects. That could be, yeah. So what, Oscar, you're asking on the SPQ, the questions on 15? Is that correct? You can unmute yourself.
Oh, yes. Excuse me. Like one of the main ones here would be like 15E,
E?
E as in Edward.
Oh, yeah. If they don't know what a pace lien is, and I believe it's, you know, I don't even really know. I did look it up and I had it printed out a while ago, such as Hero or SCEIP or other lien on your property. If they don't know what it is, the answer is probably no. But again, my recommendation is that when you are filling out these forms, you already have the preliminary title report in your hand so that you can look to see if there is a lien on the property that indicates any of these items here. Always have that prelim, because that will help a lot. There might be an old lien from a mechanic's lien that they never knew about. So you're going to want to jump on those kind of things quickly. I can't really explain PACE or Hero or any of that to you, but I know if the seller doesn't know what it is, it's probably a no. But in addition, I can pull up their title report and we can look at it together for any liens.
Okay, and also D and F.
F?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. The cost of any.
Could it be because they might think that the property taxes might go up, or what's
Yeah,
the
I think assessment on a property tax bill, and Peter can correct me. You know, sometimes in new construction, I've seen where they have assessments on the property tax bill for improvements in the community that support roads and that kind of thing. That's all I've seen and that's all I know. But again, when you take a listing, you can order the NHD with the tax information. I always do that. There's always an answer to these. You can order your NHD and request that they also provide you the tax. I ask for environmental and tax information. You pull up that sheet and the tax information should be there in your NHD. So you can, it'll tell you if there's special assessments on the property to the best of their knowledge. Okay, so does that answer your question?
Yes, and D as in David.
Okay, let's see. Any private transfer fees triggered by the sale of a property in favor of private parties, charitable organizations, interest-based groups, or any other person or entity. I'm stumped on that. I can't answer. I've never seen it that.
Okay, so there's some private transfer, you know, there's some special assessments on the properties that goes with the property, and when you transfer the property, it has to go to follows to the new buyer. So you have to find out what the private transfer fees are, you know, in those circumstances, and I don't know, you know, whether the assessor's office will have that kind of information,
Yeah.
but you certainly can get it from the title company. They usually have that recorded and appear in the preliminary title report. So I think that's the best way would be to consult the title insurance people.
Okay. Here's
Does that answer
okay.
your question, Oscar?
Yes, thank you, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Christine Finn said that those transfer fees. Thank you, Christine, for all your input. It should be listed on in the prelim, and you can also call the title officer and inquire about that.
Right.
There's a couple of questions that are kind of interesting. I think these are more of a Peter question. So this is from Carol. Can you talk about what the responsibility of a successor trustee due to death in filling out these forms?
Oh, okay. When the trustee died, the successor trustee step into the shoes of the trustee. So you know, if you don't know anything about it, then you just have to disclose what you actually know. And if you are living in the property, you should know what the property is about. Other than that, you know, not much you can do if this trustee die already. I mean, you know, you cannot ask him to disclose the information that this trustee that used to be living in the property knows. When the successor trustee comes to sell the property, then all he has to she need to do is to disclose what she actually know about the property.
Yeah. And then Carol has another interesting question. If you did your inspection before all the furniture was removed and new findings are noted after the furniture is removed, are you obligated to do amendments on your disclosures, Peter? I'll let you answer.
You should. If something is missing, then you should actually put in an amendment and let everybody know that that's what happened.
Yeah, and I have, Carol, I have ran into that before. There was a rug covering up kind of a, well, not kind of, a hole in the bathroom. So we disclosed it to the buyer, said we'd get it fixed and had them sign it and provided them the receipt. So things like that does happen. And as Peter said, it's best to disclose and try to work it out and see if they'll allow you to fix it or whatever the case may be. But it's better to disclose than to be called up about it later after closing.
Yeah, exactly.
Does anybody
better
have
for-
any questions, or Peter, you have more to add?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, if everybody, I don't see any more questions in here. And on behalf of Coldwell Banker George Realty, thank you for attending, and I'll let Peter take us out.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
Good class.
Thank you, guys. Yes, thank you for coming, and we'll see you next week.
See you next
Thank
week,
you.
everybody.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.